that many questions.
Here we are.
What's going on, y'all?
Here we are live. Doug, I put live on the Santa Monica track.
Yes. Did you tell him that you beat me in a 100-meter dash?
I actually put
Barely.
live on the Overcast Santa Monica
I love
track.
it. I love the Overcast.
It's actually nice for the summertime. It's actually nice, and what would you say? It's about 78 degrees,
Yes.
something like that.
I was going to say 77, 78.
Yeah.
Only this is the best weather out
And
here.
we have Coach Dave with us.
August gloom.
Dave, you have the questions
I have
ready?
a few questions that I already
For Doug?
asked just by accident.
Yes. I want
Quizzing
credit.
Dougie.
I want credit for that.
Dougie is, wow, it's crazy.
The trivia has begun. It happens off camera often. Actually, some of the best answers that I get are to questions that Dave asks off of the Periscope.
Samir says Coach looks good.
But then I can never remember what they were.
Samir's logged in from Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Hey, Samir, what's happening? Are you going to New York, Samir?
Samir is a resident of. Do you know this, Doug? Samir's a resident of Canada.
Canada now.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Official. Yeah.
Canada's
Got
awesome.
Got his residency.
I always meet really polite, interesting people from Canada.
Yeah.
They're doing something right up there.
What's on
They
your?
all seem pretty smart too. You know who this is?
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
Great jazz musician.
Is that Dizzy Gillespie?
That's a good guess. You know what? I was at my tax preparer's office, and he had a great sort of Leroy Neiman-esque painting of Dizzy Gillespie. But this is John Coltrane.
Oh, John Coltrane, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think.
That's a nice one.
Yeah,
Could be.
this is Coltrane. Yeah.
Are you into jazz?
Yes. Especially Coltrane. I love Miles Davis,
Yeah.
Charlie Parker.
And you got the HBO boxing.
Yeah,
going
I was
today?
feeling kind of
Any particular-
nostalgic. You know,
Yeah,
I was.
nostalgic, yeah.
I was thinking about people who used to work for HBO who are no longer with us. Did you know Artie Curry?
Sure. Oh, Artie
Yeah.
was
You
great.
remember him?
Artie was great because he would interact with between the suits, quote unquote,
Yes.
at HBO and the athletes.
Right.
I know with Kevin Kelly had a good relationship with
Yeah.
him. Roy Jones
Jones
had a
did,
very
yeah.
close relationship with
Did he
him.
die?
Yeah,
Artie
he passed away
yeah.
suddenly and way too soon. And he was a really beautiful man, New Yorker, right?
Shout
Native
out
New Yorker.
to Artie Curry.
Yeah, rest
looking
in peace.
down.
Yeah,
looking down on
he was really encouraging to Steve Kim and I.
He was
We
a
were
great
very
guy
young
and
on the scene.
also great basketball player.
I didn't know that.
We were
I didn't
doing
know
an
he could ball.
HBO thing in New York. Actually, no, it might have been on the road somewhere, and somehow we wound up in a basketball gym, and yeah, he was shooting buckets like crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably a Brooklyn guy, right? What do you think?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know where he was from
gotta look
originally,
into
but yeah, he seemed like
He
a
was
New
a
York
great
guy.
presence, whenever HBO was in town, if they were here in Los Angeles or
I'm sure with the media
big
too.
show
right?
in Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
But when you traveled to New York, he would be at Jimmy Glenn's place,
Right.
Jimmy's Corner.
Jimmy
and
Corner,
he was the best conversation.
iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? But don't you think that was probably a part of HBO's success? Is that
Sure.
they had somebody like Artie Curry who
Sure.
could sort of be a
When you have a big
liaison.
corporation like that,
Yeah.
but then you have people that were, like you said, a liaison.
Yeah.
I think that's a very important role
Yeah.
that he played. To keep, if the athletes had any particular concerns or weren't happy about something, he could always address it.
He was easy to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah. He really cared.
What do you say? What do you think, Dave? You saw the UFC fights last night.
I did.
We watched UFC.
They were okay. I'm not a huge UFC fan, but I like the female fights on UFC better. And last night was pretty good, but I love Bruce Buffer.
Bruce is
That
the best.
guy is
Yeah,
so
Bruce is
good.
great.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I love Dana White. I really like Dana White. I mean,
They both have.
getting into boxing.
They both have a lot of energy. Yeah, Dana's.
Did you listen to Dana White on Chris Mannix's podcast?
I heard he's. It's
pretty good.
Boxing.
He seems very serious
Yeah.
about getting involved in boxing, and I think in October they're going to make an announcement. He's going to unveil who he. I think it's somebody who's been in the business, but not as a promoter, not somebody who's been on camera, who's
it's going to be interesting.
well known to the public or even the media, but somebody who's been in and around the business of boxing, either on the network side or boxing.
So
operations
speaking of,
side.
I love Chris Mannix too.
Yeah, he's excellent.
I mean, he's really
Well, it was an intense show because I think Mannix is a Boston dude,
He
right?
is, yeah.
And Dana White's a Boston dude, and Bostonians have a certain energy and intensity.
Oh, okay.
But it works for Chris. I mean, he's real sharp and he's on point. He's asking those questions, and but he's good. He gives the guy
Chris is a
whoever
good,
his subject is, he gives them a chance to
Chris
speak.
is a good interviewer. I remember when we were with Triple G, one of the really early fights in New York, and we did a Sports Illustrated interview with him in one of like the basements of Sports Illustrated building.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, that was.
Remember
one
the
of very
weigh-in?
first
The
interviews that we
weigh-in
did.
was in that little room.
Yeah, that long
could
narrow
hardly get
room
in
at the
there.
Stewart Hotel. Yep, that's right. That was the Curtis Stevens weigh-in.
Yeah,
It was
exactly,
like
yeah.
I was supposed
small,
to be there. Yeah.
and now they're overflowing at the
know.
Garden.
That's great.
That wasn't that long ago.
It was.
Oh, that was December, or that was like November of 2013?
13, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Because 2012 was his HBO debut, Proxa. So,
Okay.
just to finish the UFC topic, so Stipe Miocic is the heavyweight champion now again.
Oh, so Cormier was the defending
He was the
heavyweight
defending
champ. That's how
champion,
out of it I
and
am as far
Miocic,
as MMA and UFC.
So he won. He was actually losing. It looked like he was losing the fight, and then he came back and won. It was a sold-out Honda Center, by the way. So they had they had a great crowd down there.
Yeah.
And then
You know, they've always gotten a great crowd in Anaheim.
shout out to
15, 16, 17 years ago.
Nate Diaz had a big win also against Anthony Pettis. I didn't realize there was a big rivalry going way back, but it was one of those things where I guess Pettis was a champion, wouldn't give Nate Diaz the shot,
Ah.
Yeah,
and so
that was a good fight.
so.
Who
I'm gonna have
would
a
you
trip-
say the crowd favorite was?
Oh, Nate Diaz, because
Diaz,
he's from California.
Yeah, he's
Northern California.
And the Governor
from
was
Stockton.
there.
Yeah,
Arnold the Governor.
Arnold Schwarzenegger
He
was
looked
there.
good.
Shaq was there. Terrence Crawford was there, which
Terrence Crawford,
was interesting
pretty
because
cool.
Top Rank had a show at Bank of California Stadium.
Right, and
Crawford
he
went
was
to the
there.
UFC
Yeah,
show.
there wasn't anybody. But his trainer Bomac was doing.
He was commentating.
commentating.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I noticed that. But
Yeah.
Nate Diaz, here, I'll get into it. So he was off for 3 years. He hadn't fought since he fought Conor McGregor.
Right.
He's off for 3 years, comes back, and then beats Anthony Pettis, who, Anthony's a little bit older as well
Right.
now, too.
But he could fight.
It wasn't like he was active, and that reminded me of when Vitaly Klitschko was off for almost 4 years. Came
Comes back
and
against Sam Peter.
Beat Sam Peter and got his title back. Beat the reigning world champion at that time.
You know, we were talking about James Toney while we were doing walking and doing our sprints, and I asked Tony what were some of his favorite performances that we didn't talk about. We talked about 6 or 7. Michael Nunn, the first 2 fights with Mike McCallum, Iran Barkley, which was his peak, absolutely. Yeah. Vasily Girov, Evander Holyfield,
Prince Charles when he had that.
Prince
photo
Charles,
finish.
we talked about that.
Right?
Yeah. He had nice things to say about Prince Charles too. But he was actually proud of that first fight with Sam Peter because he felt that he beat him. And almost everybody in the media on Press Row, that fight took place at Staples Center, all agrees with him that he should have outpointed Sam Peter.
Yeah,
but that fight lets you know. I mean, he was just fighting way too heavy, and against a guy as big and strong as Sam Peter, you have to imagine there was a lot of damage incurred in that fight. Because Peter was hitting him in the back of the head too. It's bad. James was so tough though.
Going from a sleek 160 pounds at middleweight champion to what was he fighting, like 220, 225?
Yeah, heavier than that, above 230.
Tell everyone how to watch that. The fight he had with Iran Barkley.
Yeah,
you retweet. I actually saw
retweeted somebody else's clip of he's in the trenches with Iran. Blade is loading up, and Blade was the defending IBF title holder. He also had the WBA title at light heavyweight because he beat Tommy Hearns in their rematch. So he dropped down from light heavyweight back to super middleweight, and he was a favorite, at least a slight betting favorite over James Toney, who was coming up in weight. And this clip is Barkley trying to chop James down, but he can't land a punch. And James is just ducking and slipping, but he's also landing these hellacious counterpunches, but he's also dropping combinations. And that was the beauty of James Toney. He was like almost like Pernell Whitaker level slickness. Once he reached his peak, once he came into his own, which is around this fight. But his offense was there. He was still lights out at this time.
And he was in shape. And he didn't have to lose weight at the end. I mean, he really was in shape.
Yeah, he didn't have to dry out to make 168. And Barkley tried to get in his face during the press tour, he was motivated.
But I think you have to watch that fight. I've never, ever seen anyone look as good as James Toney looked in that fight.
For all those new boxing fans, Doug, right? You watch, go to watch James Toney versus Iran Barkley.
Yes.
And you'll see a prime James Toney.
That was
right
probably it was either 93 or it was 94.
They said it's on
93.
YouTube.
Yeah,
Someone,
it's probably late 93.
Yeah, so if you
October
search,
2nd,
yeah,
if you search YouTube, you'll see. And
It's
I
incredible.
worked with James for a few fights after he lost to Roy Jones, and he was one of the most athletically gifted
Yeah.
fighters.
And had a great trainer.
So I'm right. Yeah, Bill Miller. So we talk
Bill
a lot
Miller.
about that, and that's one of the main things of my article is to talk about. Yeah,
His
James
upbringing.
says he was born to box, and he was a great natural talent. He was a tremendous athlete, but he really took seriously learning the old school craft.
Yeah.
Like he would study because Bill Miller had this huge library. He had films. Miller goes back to like these films. And Miller had all the film converted to VHS tape, and James would watch it after every workout, every night. He would watch
All the different
these
styles,
tapes
right?
with Bill, and then he would try to emulate what he saw Ezra Charles or Jersey Joe Walcott doing,
And he did.
and he picked it up. Eventually, he picked it up. He sure did. Yeah.
What was
Yeah.
Bill Miller into?
Jazz.
Jazz.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely.
What was what other sport did James Toney play in high school?
Football.
Football. He was a quarterback.
Proud of that.
Quarterback.
He says
He
those
had
are
a
the
very
two greatest
good arm.
sports. He says boxing and football, and everything else is bullshit.
All the contact sports. Yeah.
Everything else is for
He
wussies.
was a very talented.
He's not
football
PC.
player.
He's not politically correct, by the way.
So how's his weight now?
It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad. No, he seems. I mean, he's still. You know, he has vices. I mean, he still loves cigars. Probably eats more than he should, but he's not
Yeah.
bloated. I mean, he's like a solid. He carries it.
He weighs less than Andy Ruiz, right?
Yes,
So it's all relative.
considerably less.
So I remember James Toney when he was training for the Roy Jones fight,
Yeah.
and he had dinner at my house with a bunch
That's
of
right. You
people.
told those stories.
So we hid everything so he couldn't eat.
Yeah.
We didn't have anything except really health food and everything. And so because, you know, he had to make weight and he had a bad record on that.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out after he left my house, he went to Fatburger.
Yeah.
And then that fight, the week of the fight, he was 15 pounds over.
Yeah.
So he had
That's
to get
because,
all
He
this-
didn't lose that weight in a healthy way.
That's because Coach was very close friends with Jackie Callan. That's why
Yeah.
she brought him over for dinner.
Yeah.
To
He
the house.
talked about Jackie a little bit.
Yeah.
That's gonna be in the next issue of the
But
Ring.
I tell you what, though, that
Oh,
fight-
you know who else is gonna be in the next issue of the Ring? Ali Akhmedov. That's our new faces.
Oh, nice. Ali's one of the most
what are you
talented.
chuckling at? Somebody commented
Sam
something.
Sam Garcia.
What's up with
said,
Sam?
Said, ask Coach if James held a gun to Jackie
Oh,
Callan.
jeez. Allegedly.
Yeah. Well, he was outside in her lawn with the gun. Or
Oh,
something, but
jeez.
He didn't take that very well, but
Yeah.
I got to tell you, that fight was sort of close. I mean, that was. I
That's
don't
what
think,
he says. He was like, everyone says, he was like, listen, it was the worst day of my life. If he was as good as everybody says he was, he should have wiped me out that night.
No, but
He's like,
I
but it
don't
didn't
think
happen.
I don't think that was a knockdown either.
No,
So-
he was off balance. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think you could even call it a knockdown.
Roy got credit because Roy goaded him in
Right.
to the
And
showboating.
He did
and it
hit
was
him
on-
with the
right.
punch, but then
It
James
was like, yeah, it
was
was like
off
a
balance
grazing.
going backwards.
Yeah.
But if James had been in the shape for that fight that it was for
Iron
Barkley,
Barkley.
he would have won.
That
Would've
would,
been-
well, I don't know. I think Roy Jones had a difficult style for James, even at his
No,
best.
he did for sure.
And as good as an athlete as James was, Roy Jones was off the charts.
Right.
Athletically speaking,
Roy Jones
Roy
was
was
very
off the
athletic
charts.
also.
Yes.
How about boxing knowledge?
They're both up there. They're both up there.
I see.
They're
James is
both
better.
geniuses.
I think
Well,
James is better.
Well, you know, Roy understands the principles of boxing. He didn't have to follow the rule books because of his talent. But they're both geniuses, really. But yeah, I would probably give the edge to James Toney on that. I have to say that because I might run into him again. But he's
Yeah,
up
I know.
there. He's up there with Pops, with John Arthur at James McGirt's, Buddy McGirt's.
Oh,
Buddy
gym
McGirt's
in,
gym, okay.
Northridge.
And what's he doing there?
Hanging out. I asked him, "Are you training folks?" He's like, "No, these guys don't listen,
And then we had,
and they want to do things their way, so it's the highway."
and then our friend Chris Van Heerden, he fought
Congrats,
last night.
Chris.
He had a nice win.
Got 10 rounds under his belt.
He got cut in the process over both eyes, but no, it was an 8-round actually, 8-round
eight round.
decision.
Okay.
And but it had a nice win over a solid opponent. And,
Good.
We like to see Chris be successful.
And he's working out well with Brian Valoria.
Right, training with Brian Valoria here at
I'm
Churchill
happy for
Boxing.
those guys.
Yep. So that seems to be working out.
Yeah.
Seems to be working out well.
Yeah. Any
And,
thoughts on Jesse Magdaleno or Navarrete?
Navarrete.
Is it Navarrete?
Actually, I don't know
What's
how to
his
spell it. Enunciate it the right way. But,
I mess up.
pronounce
Is it 2 R's and 1 T,
I just
or
say
2 R's and 2
Navarrete.
T's?
It's 2
Or
R's.
1 R and 1 T?
I think it's
2
2
T's?
R's.
Did you watch it?
I did. I watched just the 2 main. I watched Jesse because I like him, and he was in tough with Rafael Rivera, and he looked good. He got a terrible cut over the bridge of his nose, unfortunately. And then I watched the main event with between Navarrete and Tavaca. And Navarrete he dominated. He looked good. You know, there are people who argue that Navarrete should be considered the best 122 pounder out there. I still think it's Daniel Ramon. I think he paid the cost to be the boss, and he's a unified champ.
You know, there was a kid on the undercard called Elvis Rodriguez.
Yeah, I got to check him out. Colombia.
So it was his 4th fight. He was two wins, 1 draw. This is his 3rd fight. Won all 3 fights by knockout. But the kid was really good. I mean, really good. I looked up the guy that he had to draw with, he had a fair record.
Yeah.
The other guys didn't, but that guy, if you can, I tried to get the replay of it though on ESPN Plus, and I couldn't. I don't know if they
Maybe
show
it wasn't
or not.
there yet. Yeah.
But the stadium, I heard the stadium worked out well for boxing. We had
That's
that.
nice.
Remember, we had the media training
Yeah,
for
that's
Triple
right.
G
The
and
media
Canelo
workouts. Yeah.
there, and I can imagine for the right type of fight, you could really sell that place
Yeah.
out, or you could sell out the what's it called now, Dignity Health.
Yeah.
And that's what
What
the
is
only
Steve-
fight there was Oscar fought there one time at Dignity Health.
No.
Remember?
Oh,
No,
yeah,
he
in the
fought
soccer
at the big-
stadium.
Yeah.
At the big stadium, that's what I meant.
That was
Do you
Stevie
know who he
Forbes.
fought? Steve Forbes.
Yeah.
Steve Forbes.
And do you know what Oscar's next fight was after that?
Pacquiao.
It was back down.
It was supposed to be Mayweather. It was supposed to be Mayweather was upset about something.
No, but that was the reason I knew
Pacquiao would win, huh? Because
for sure. Because Oscar got all beat up in that fight.
well, it looked like he got
Against
stung
Forbes.
by a swarm
Yeah,
of bees
yeah.
or horseflies or something.
So
Yeah.
the question we were talking before, and the trivia that you got was, we were talking about why when they changed the weigh-ins from the same day weigh-in to
Previous day.
previous day, and it was
Right.
because of it was a fight in Las Vegas,
Right.
and it was
Richie Sandoval.
Richie Sandoval. I was
I
there.
think it was Gabby Canizales he
It
was
was,
fighting.
and he
Sandoval drained
and
himself
he almost died in that fight. So they changed it, and so I was asking Dougie who was the main event, who was the second fight, who was the third fight. He knew them all.
I got it right.
The history of everything.
I remembered.
What was the paid attendance?
I have no idea. I imagine pretty good because, Hagler versus Mugabe.
Yeah.
And this was Hagler's first fight after the showdown with Tommy Hearns, so he was at the peak of his popularity.
Yeah.
Came late in his career, but it finally arrived. And Tommy Hearns was on the undercard,
Yeah.
or actually in the co-main, against James Schuller. He looked
Right.
amazing.
Yeah.
They were trying to build up a rematch. That's why they were on there. And then, Ray Leonard comes out and says, I'm fighting Hagler. And that got me back into boxing, big time. And this is also, another distinction. That was the first fight that was aired on Showtime.
Showtime.
It was their first, yeah. Not bad.
And who were the announcers?
For Showtime?
Yeah.
Was it Barry Tom? No, not
I
Barry.
don't know.
Barry was with HBO.
Well, didn't Steve Albert? Didn't he?
Yeah,
do
it used to be Steve
Showtime?
Albert and Bobby Shez, but were they on that first broadcast?
That's a
though?
good question.
Might have been, man. It might have been like Tim Ryan. Could have been Tim Ryan and Gil Clancy.
And that's also
Gil Clancy trained Oscar for the Pacquiao fight.
Was he? No, he didn't. No, they brought in.
No.
It was Nacho Beristain,
Right.
and they brought in Angelo Dundee.
Yeah, Angelo Dundee.
But Angelo
in
was just
name,
doing
in
like-
name.
But Gil trained him for
He
one
did,
fight.
he did. But while Oscar was still in his prime, though.
Yeah.
Gil was brought.
Oh, that's
in for a
right.
couple
Wasn't
fights,
it
yeah.
for the Trinidad fight? Wasn't he there for the Trinidad fight?
Trinidad and the fight before that too? I think against Quartet.
I remember he was there.
A couple fights, yeah.
He Oscar fought everyone, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He doesn't get credit though.
Fight court. Hey.
Everyone's mad at him because he's a promoter now, and they just it's in vogue to hate on him.
Oscar
But-
fought the best.
If you look at the records of Ike Corte and Felix Trinidad and Shane Mosley and even before he stepped up to welterweight, guys like Miguel Angel Gonzalez. If you look at their records and where they were in their careers, and you tally up their records, I mean, it's like he's, 5 or 6 opponents, and it's like, whatever, 250 wins, 1 loss, 2 draws, or something like that. It's crazy, man, I mean, even Whitaker was past his prime, but he was still welterweight champ, still number 1 pound for pound. I think his record was like 42-1-1. Wow. And he should have been 44-0 because he won those blemishes.
So let me ask you, where did Oscar make his pro debut?
The Great Western Forum in Englewood.
And who named him?
John Babe Rudy, the publicist,
and who's
former boxing writer, sports writer.
Who's the original Golden Boy?
Art Aragon.
And he fought Obakar in '99.
Yeah, Obakar was a hell of a fight.
That was the first fight at Mandalay Bay when it first
and that was
opened.
like his not stay busy fight, but that was like his HBO fight in between.
That was after Oba beat Frankie Randall.
Yeah.
To earn that shot.
Was that was in '99?
That was in '99, and the only controversy there was it was very close. I think going into the 8th round,
Yeah.
and then Richard Steele took away 2 points
Yes.
from Oba in the same round.
It was
One for accidental headbutt and one for low blow, and both of them were questionable.
That took the
calls.
wind out of Oba's sails, though. Yeah, Oscar stopped Oba. I was at that fight.
I think like in the 11th round.
The 11th round. So so Oscar's 1999 was Ike Corte, Obakar, and Felix Trinidad.
Yep. Solid.
Can you imagine if
Very
there was
solid.
like a superstar fighting like that?
Yeah.
Like that's just 3 times. Like in '97, he fought 5 times, including Pernell Whitaker.
Speaking of fighting a lot, I was looking up the records, and when Jerry Quarry turned pro
Yeah.
at the L.A. Coliseum,
Yeah.
who was his opponent?
Oh, I have no idea.
Sergeant Gene Hamilton.
Sergeant
You know
Gene
that?
Hamilton. I'm gonna remember that. I love that name.
So anyway, this
Sergeant
was about
Gene.
in May or April, something like
Yeah.
that. And Jerry Quarry had, I can't remember, either 9 or 13 fights the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And then the next year he had like 7 fights. So
Yeah.
there used to be guys caught all the time.
Well, that James Toney, he turned pro in late '88, right? Like October '88. He had like 2 or 3 fights, and then his first full year as a professional was 1989. He fought 12 times. Fought 12 times.
Brian Ceballos fighting this Friday at Ken Casey's.
What's up, Brian?
Ken Casey's show in Boston. Everyone's
Dropkick Murphys.
tune in for that, and this will be his.
It'll be streamed.
This will be his 10th fight.
Yeah, you've done a great job, Tom, with both Brian and with Sergey Boachuk.
Yeah.
Because they fight every other month. They average 6 fights a year, which is great. Which, but by today's standards, is like fighting every month.
Sergey just had his first 10-rounder and
Yeah.
15-0 with 15 knockouts. So that's
Who's going to
impressive.
take this dude? Who's going to take Boachuk past 8 rounds?
Yeah.
You're going to have to find a tough SOB because the dude he fought from Mexico was a tough SOB.
I really think
I've
he's
seen
got.
that dude fight
I
before.
think he's got future world champion written on.
I think they both do.
What do you think, Dave? You've seen him a
I
lot.
like Boachuk a lot, and I think that he's got the right personality. He's really good,
And he loves to train.
and he likes the whole thing.
And Brian had a great performance on the Triple G show.
Yeah.
June.
That opened a lot of
June 8th.
people's eyes.
Yeah.
It really did.
Fought a very tough guy that kept
Yeah.
coming forward, a lot of knockouts, and Brian wanted that guy.
Yeah.
And he rose to the occasion. A lot of
Yeah.
fighters, or some fighters, you don't know how they're going to do until they get on the big stage.
Yeah.
And Brian
He
Ceballos really,
he likes the big
really
stage, for
excelled.
sure.
Yeah.
He likes it.
And he sold a lot of tickets for that show, which
Oh, that's a good sign. That's great.
is important for a fighter.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah. He's one to watch. He's one to watch.
You have Dave. You have some trivia
Well,
coming up.
I do, but I think we should make it shorter
Yeah.
and longer.
Okay.
And I think we've been on a long time. One thing I did come up with, I was trying to read some stuff, and Clyde Gray's name kept coming up. Remember?
Oh yeah, I couldn't remember his
And
name.
he was
he was a welterweight
one of the
contender.
things I was looking at, it was like, who were the 10 best boxers that never became a champ?
I'll put Obakar on that.
He was one of those.
Yeah. He is.
Ken Norton.
Ken Norton. Well, actually, he did get the title, the WBC title. He didn't win it in the ring, but he was awarded it.
Oh, this is something I didn't know. I guess.
Remember Ivan Robinson?
Ivan Robinson.
Poor guy.
I remember Ivan Robinson.
Yeah.
But I guess Spike O'Sullivan is on that show as well. On the same
Oh
show.
yeah. He's like promoted by them.
So that'll be a nice show.
Co-promoted or
that
sort of
Ken's
managed
doing
by
out
them.
there in Boston.
Yeah. Spike's a good guy.
So should I book my flight to New York for the 5th of October?
It
Well,
might, that date
my
might
comment-
not be in stone, though.
My
It might
comment
move back.
on that is that, Doug, you'll know on this, is that if that fight gets announced officially, then all the critiques that were saying Triple G was ducking
No.
Derevyanchenko,
And where are those
I guess
folks
they'll
now?
have to eat their words on that one. They
You know what?
didn't realize
Everyone
that
who was so rah Derevyanchenko, he doesn't even
the
exist
dire
to them now.
circumstances that we had to go through to save that May 5 date for him.
No.
And then to be set, we literally had 2.5 weeks.
You got stripped anyways.
Yeah,
Here's what I don't understand,
eventually, yeah.
and I'm not trying to stir the pot. I'm not trying to get you to say anything bad about the IBF or about Derevyanchenko, because I think he's a hell of a middleweight. I think he's a badass. I think
He's actually a nice
legitimate
guy.
contender.
Derevyanchenko is a nice
Yeah.
guy. I just didn't agree with the
Exactly.
circumstances around.
Here's what I don't get.
They could have let Triple G fight in May and then figure out a way to
Here's the deal. No. Here's my thing.
work
Here's my
out a deal
thing.
down the road.
Derevyanchenko.
Oh yeah,
But he becomes the
followed this
mandatory.
close.
Off
Right.
that one fight, he becomes not only the number one contender, but they're mandatory. Toriano Johnson shouldn't have even been ranked. That dude had been out of the ring for more than a year. He had one comeback fight against a club fighter in a 6 or 8 rounder. But yet, his very next fight is an IBF title elimination bout with Derevyanchenko. Derevyanchenko wins it. He gets his shot, right? They strip it from Triple G. He fights his stablemate, Daniel Jacobs,
Jacobs,
for the
right.
vacant title.
Yep.
He loses.
Right.
So then he comes back and he has one fight against Jack Colkay, and he's mandatory again. He's number 1 in mandatory, and it's like, what's up, IBF? I mean, I like Derevyanchenko, but you guys really like Derevyanchenko. And what's it like? What about those other contenders in the IBF? Like, doesn't anybody else get a turn being mandatory or number 1? Like, what's up with
You
that?
know, an interesting point that's a parallel story to that is
I don't get it.
When Vladimir was champion,
Yeah.
long reigning champion, over 10 years, he had to fight Tony Thompson 3 times as a mandatory.
Right?
because
Why was he kept coming up as their number
kept
1? Yeah.
becoming the mandatory. Yeah.
It's like,
but,
aren't there other guys out there? IBF?
but if that fight does happen, then Triple G and Derevyanchenko, that's a great fight.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah, and everybody who said that he was afraid of Derevyanchenko or avoiding Derevyanchenko, you guys should be there.
Yep.
Buy a ticket
100%.
if you can't get a media credential.
So
Don't sneak in.
We'll see if that fight gets officially announced. But I see a lot of rumors out there, a lot of articles. There's even artwork out there now that I see.
Really?
fan artwork. So.
All right. Well, that's okay.
Well, we
Someone's
hope it happens.
Someone's asking about.
But October is the target month for that.
That's when Gennady wanted to fight. Was
Right.
in October. Yeah.
Right. But it may not necessarily be
Yeah,
October.
he really wanted to fight September 14th.
Yes,
against
of
Canelo,
course.
but
That would've been
somehow
nice.
that got derailed.
Yeah.
So what about Kovalov? We didn't talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
he's
Kovalev fights
coming up
next
this
Saturday.
week.
Yeah, this week,
he's
and I
fighting,
think he's going
Yard.
to lose. I think Yard is.
You like Anthony Yarde?
I do.
He's
and I like him by a knockout.
Yeah.
Dave's picking the UK. Is he undefeated?
Yeah. And he's smart, and he's
a
a
mandatory,
tremendous
right?
athlete. Yes, WBO mandatory.
Okay.
Yeah, Frank Warren guy.
Okay.
But
Okay.
you look at his record, not a lot of recognizable names on there. And I think he was one of these latecomers to boxing.
But he
But
fought
he's
an eliminator.
intelligent, though. He's a smart guy,
Fought an eliminator to become the mandatory.
I guess. I don't know how
But
these
yeah, that's coming
works
up in
with
Russia.
Sanctioned organizations, yeah.
And it depends if
But if Kovalev wins, right, he's the front runner to fight Canelo later
that's a
this
great
year.
fight. I mean,
Tremendous.
great fight. It's a great fight for Canelo.
People will be interested.
Yeah, no, I want to see that
DAZN's
fight,
into
but
that
I
fight.
think Yarde is going to spoil it.
Tom, what do you think of DAZN authorizing Kovalev, Demetrius Andrade, but also Jermall Charlo, and there's some other guy. It maybe is a PBC person. I heard it was Caleb Plant, like authorizing them as those fighters as opponents for Canelo this
Oh,
year.
approved opponents for
Yeah,
Canelo?
approved opponents.
Yeah, I don't want to get into speculating on
Is that
Canelo.
speculation?
I actually got a cease and desist letter from Canelo's attorney.
Really?
One time
Oh, wow.
when I was speculating about a third Triple G Canelo fight. This is a while ago. So,
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so
All
I'm
right.
not
I don't
gonna-
want to get you in trouble,
I'm not
man.
going to speculate on that, but I mean, look, Charlo's a great fight.
Yeah, right? I'm into
Those
that.
other ones, Kovalev is one of those fights where he could say he goes up in weight?
I'd give
you know?
Canelo respect for fighting Andrade. It wouldn't be World War III, but I give him respect for fighting an Olympian and a world amateur champion. You know, with that type of style, that's difficult. A lot of
Caleb
guys
Plant
would
just had a
swerve,
nice.
Andrade.
Well, he fought Mike Lee, so
Yeah,
that
but
was,
Plant can fight. I mean, he's a
No,
real
Plant
super
can fight.
middleweight.
He can definitely
I
fight.
think he's got
Yeah.
talent. Yeah.
yeah, Plant can definitely fight.
Yeah, but I don't
like
know.
him. He's a likable guy. He
I
has,
don't
he
see
has
it
a good
happening.
story also.
So
Yes, he
let me
does.
ask you,
I don't see it happening with the PVC guys crossing the street
Oh.
for Canelo.
How are you going to drive this?
And
week?
Andrade's.
Man, like I just won the
Andrade's
lottery.
We're
Go
gonna
ahead.
say that again.
I
Dave.
think-
I don't think.
Like
I-
you know the
people
superhero
cut that.
Daredevil? He's blind, but he's got
Yeah.
a sonar like a
Yeah.
bat, and like I'm gonna have sonar. I'm gonna know everything around. me.
drive like you won the lottery, right?
But I'm not gonna be in a rush,
Yeah, there you go.
and I'm gonna
And
be
you let
alert.
people in when they want to cut in front
Oh,
of
yeah.
you instead of
And even when you don't drive, don't be in a rush.
right.
Right.
You don't want to ever be in a rush.
Right.
Got to take it easy.
And like the girls say, no texting in the car.
Yeah.
Hey, I have
I leave
seen
that to them.
I have seen so many people texting
Yeah.
Yeah.
lately. It's crazy. So,
It's an epidemic here in.
but anyway, you just
LA.
got to always be cool.
And always be positive. What are the 2 ways to wake up, Dave?
Every single day, you wake up and you say to yourself, I have 2 choices today, and I have to pick one of them. Am I going to be happy, or am I going to be very happy?
There you go.
And if you maybe say it at noontime too, and
Okay.
it really works. It really does work. So you just have to be cool. You got to
Positive
love
attitude.
everyone. You got to take it easy. You got to eat right. You got to sleep right.
Get
Drink a
your
lot
sleep.
of water.
Lots of water.
Was
chew
your
your food.
was your
Yeah.
friend Dershkovitz there for dinner with James Toney?
I love Dershkowitz. He's
That's Larry's friend.
Yeah.
Larry's a good friend. Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we're gonna sign off. Did we
Yeah.
cover
Thanks
everything?
for joining us, folks.
Did we
Yeah.
review all the fights and all the upcoming? Or at
Yeah,
least
next
most
week
of the
we'll talk
upcoming
about
fights?
Lomachenko versus Luke Campbell.
And you said you're not
I'm
going
kinda
to
into that.
Saudi Arabia. Right?
I don't think I wouldn't plan. I'll watch it on the zone.
I don't think a lot of media are going.
I
out,
mean, if like a
Saudi
really
Arabia.
really prominent sheik or Omar Sheikha invites me, I will go.
On their
If I am there, if
On
they
their private
on their
jet.
private jet,
I
if
remember
they.
Omar Sheikha.
Omar
Yeah, I don't know if
Sheikha.
Omar Sheikha has a private jet, but he might know people
That's a
who have
Detroit guy,
private.
right?
Yeah, no, I think he was Jersey.
Was he Jersey?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, good guy.
Omar Sheikha.
Tough
so
cat.
tell them about our favorite fighters.
Oh, you're
fighting
talking about
Thursday.
like guys who, really good who didn't win a world title?
Yeah.
Because they just fought really good
Like
guys.
Obakar?
Yeah, he's one of them. Yeah, Obakar is one of them.
How about
I've
Benny
been-
Briscoe?
Benny Briscoe, absolutely.
And how about our favorite fighter fighting Thursday in
Ooh,
India?
Blair Cobb.
Blair Cobb.
Golden Boy DAZN Thursday night fights. You can watch it on ringtv.com
Yeah. Are you gonna do that?
and regional cable.
Are you
Yeah, I'm doing
commentating?
commentary with
Oh,
the
nice.
coach, the other coach, Jonathan Coachman.
Wait, we have to see.
Main event is good. Luis Feliciano versus Janelle
Oh,
Gomez.
Yeah.
that's
Two
a
undefeated
great
guys,
main
man.
event. That's Ben Lira is training.
Ben
Luis
Lira.
Feliciano,
Yeah.
And he's in it with a tough fight.
No,
See that again?
wait.
Woo!
Hey.
You gotta. I
That
wish
is
I had,
good.
when I was a kid, I had
Wait.
hair like Blair's, right? But you gotta like,
Oh,
woo!
wow. I'm going to imitate
Hey.
Dougie.
Okay. We want to see Ric Flair.
I'm going to imitate
Philip,
Dougie
we want
now.
to see Ric Flair.
Woo! So if you wake up in the morning and you don't feel like looking in the mirror and saying, doing the whole thing where I'm gonna be happy or very happy, just look yourself in the eye, in the mirror, and go, woo!
Yeah.
And
Wow,
you don't even
hey.
need coffee after that, man.
Wait, did some of those meds that Dr. Allen is taking today rub off on Doug? Did
No,
you get
Doug-
too close to him?
Doug is
No.
very calm. You should have
no.
seen him last week.
Yeah.
I almost called 9/11.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, have a great week, everyone. Be happy. Love everyone. Be nice to everyone. Pet your dog.
And your cat, right?
Cat for sure.
You used to have a cat out here, right? And
Yeah.
he'd come around, follow you without a leash.
I brought my cat with
That's what I heard. Did you see that cat, Doug?
The cat didn't even need a leash.
No, he,
He's
no,
just
he,
like a
he
dude.
didn't
He's like a
handle
chill
it.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we're
Anyway.
going to sign off
Yeah.
from Santa Monica,
Adios.
California.
Adios.